good start.
Right, the title of this video isn't clickbait. I do feel like I've made a bit of a mistake buying the Pan-European. I feel a bit bummed out by the whole project, to be honest. It was meant to be a cheap, kind of low budget build, and we've ended up with spiraling costs and a timeline that's just stretched out to infinity. I bought the bike back at the start of July, and it's now mid to late August filming this. I haven't ridden the bike on the road. I've got no idea how mechanically it's going to perform at higher speeds. And it's just been a bit frustrating getting the fairings, and what's annoying about it is it looks like I haven't done anything, because it's just basically, oh, Sean swapped a few panels around and done the wing mirror, but it's just taken a lot of time, a lot of fiddling, lots of time on eBay trying to spray paint things to match. Still don't fully match, just better than before. And so it's just been a bit of a frustrating build. If I was going to do this again, I would either buy a bike that has full fairings or that's crash damaged. I wouldn't tick a bike. I wouldn't buy a bike that ticks both of those boxes, because it's just a pain doing plastic fairings on a 28-year-old bike. Right, let's talk about this seat. The seat's been the bane of my life for this project. The seat was meant to take 10 days or just over a week. It was meant to be £70, and it was meant to be a cheap retrim. Just put some vinyl over and staple it up and try and just give me the cheapest but visually acceptable result. It ended up taking 5.5 weeks and cost £100 all told. The fact it took so long meant I couldn't ride the bike, so now I have no idea how this bike runs on the open road, let alone taking it to Europe. But the fact it crept up in price, and you might say it's only £29, even £99 for a seat retrim is good value. And I would say, yes, that's true, I agree with you. However, I think that being quoted 70, that informed my decision on this budget build to go for what I consider a cheap retrim, rather than trying to source a second-hand seat for about 50, 60, something like that. The shipping for the vinyl cost £18 per delivery. So if you order a pack of pens, it's £18, even if the pens cost a fiver. So I ended up getting stung with the delivery charge. I think with the benefit of hindsight, I would have gone in there and said, look, there's some offcut. He was actually doing a football club that was Aston Villa colours, kind of a deep purple, deep reddy purple and light blue. I should have just said, oh, there's an offcut of the reddy purple colour. Just whip that over my seat. I would have had no delay, and I wouldn't have paid shipping, and I probably wouldn't have paid for the vinyl because it's just a cheap offcut. So that's going to be my thing in future. I'm just going to say, do it with whatever you've got in the workshop. I don't really care about the colour. It's more about the finish that I've got. Right, let's see if I can get the bike started. So choke in is this way, is towards me. Oh, there you go. I always do that. I leave the engine kill switch on. On the A39 on the Pan-European. I've had a little ride around on the bike, filled it with fuel, done the tyre pressures, and now I'm just getting my first experience of piloting a Pan. I've got to say, I'm actually kind of blown away with how nice it is. You kind of think that bikes got better with age, and sort of some of the aspects of it, like the technology, does get better, but the riding experience, I think, is kind of more or less the same. If anything, this is slightly better because it doesn't have unnecessary crap on it, and it doesn't have the fuel injection. So when I open the throttle, there's no jerk at all. It's just buttery smooth. It's amazing. Oh, see? Still in the 30. 30 or 40, could be either, so I'm not going to risk it. But it's a very smooth bike to ride in terms of the throttle response. Like the smoothest I've ever ridden. Just cancel those indicators. I think it goes up to a 50 up here. But it's really, really nice. It's really comfortable as well.
which I was expecting. A little bit of a lean towards the bars, which is not ideal for me. I'd rather it be a bolt upright touring bike, but there you go, up to 40. Way! But it is a sports tourer, so we can't really begrudge it. It is what it is, sort of thing. But it's lovely on the open road. I think round town, and I have been round town on it, it's a bit of a pig because it weighs 297, let's just call it 300 kilos. It's a little bit weighty. I came to a junction that was down a hill, and as I was queuing, I had to put my feet down, and because it's heavy and my feet don't touch the floor easily, they don't flat foot easily, it was a bit wanted to go down towards the junction. I had to apply the brake. It's got quite a wide turning circle. We're doing like a 3-point turn. If you're trying to push the bike while off the bike, the exact opposite to what I'm doing now. Look at this. If you're trying to push the bike around, it's heavy, but out on the open road, it's a dream come true. I'm getting more and more used to the riding position as well. But carburettor, who would have thought it? I never thought I'd have a bike with carbs. I just thought, oh, they're those fiddly things that always go wrong and have to be balanced and cleaned and everything. But the upside is you get buttery smooth on off the throttle. Oh, look at this smooth tarmac. Hey, I like the cockpit as well. I mean, obviously it's dated, so let's not pretend it isn't. And the layout has aged really well. Okay, you haven't got TFT or whatnot, but you can easily see everything. It all works. Really clear warning lights at the top there, so if I was to indicate, you'll see that flash up there, and you can't really easily miss it. So even though I've got a habit of cancelling indicators, you're hard pressed to miss that light when it's blinking at you. Nice visibility through the mirrors, because they're in a weird location compared to today's bikes. You know, they're not stuck out here on a stalk looking at your shoulder. They're just sort of tucked there out of the way, but you get a huge view of the road behind. Don't pull out, lady. She's not going to. So all is good, all is well on the pan. Should we just test? I've got these fancy heated grips that came with the bike. So these supposedly detect when the alternator isn't charging the bike, and they will turn off when the bike's off, the intelligent heat controller, and that way you don't drain your battery, even if you've wired the grips directly to the battery. I don't need them today because it's summer. One other thing that's amazing, this switchgear, 30 years old, although the markings are worn on it, is better than a lot of modern bike switchgear. It's better than the BSA switchgear, and I think it's better than the CF Moto's new range, which is also very good. But this old switchgear, as a guy in an old Triumph, is mint. It's pucker. It's like Jamie Oliver. Windscreen, I am getting quite a lot of buffeting, but then you do get that on all bikes with screens. I feel like, where's the turbulence? Yeah, about here. You can feel it if you move your hand up and down through the range. And with that, if you sit back a bit, you get less. And I'm not wearing ear protection, so if I was, which I would do on a long ride, I would notice it a lot less. Not awful, because it's a big bike and you're sat quite far away from the screen, so the air comes up, you've got the turbulence just above the screen, and then it's sort of like it's smoothing out. Not as clean as a naked bike, but still pretty good. It always unnerves me that the pans sit at just over cold when they're running, and then if you are stationary on the bike and you let it heat up so the radiator fans kick in, then it'll go up to the middle, but it sits almost looking like the thermostat's broken. You know, now modern bikes, it's always bang in the middle, but that's a bit weird for me, how it's like the temperature gauge is over to the one side. Yeah, I just dropped down through the very smooth gearbox. I've only got 5 gears, but they're so nicely spread, you don't really need more. Look at this. It's so smooth. Yeah, oh. The front brake is kind of okay. I mean, I'm used to very strong front brakes. on modern bikes, so it's just okay, you know. Rear brake is alright as well, but then I don't ride like an idiot, so I don't really need like Brembo styling calipers or braided lines. As long as it works and in an emergency situation I can stop safely, then I'm happy. Ooh, what a winner! What a winner! See, look, I dropped down. I can't even speak. I dropped down coming into bends. I'm used to the BSA. I know the small capacity bikes, you don't need to on this though. Right. Now I've got vehicles coming the other way, otherwise I would have done a cheeky little overtake down this straight. Everybody see my little digital clock down there? That's hilarious, isn't it? I do, you know, weirdly, I do like a clock on a bike. I think you don't want to be doing this trying to look at your watch and your jacket gets stuck and everything. It is nice to have the time on your bike. And that's just so retro to have a little Casio style LCD display. It doesn't do anything apart from tell the time. Literally, that's not a trip computer or anything. That is just a clock. They've used that much space just for a clock. Other little tidbits that you may or may not have noticed, probably not because it's flipped over, is I've gone for a retro Honda keyring, Honda motorcycle keyring, just to like as be a nice little touch for the bike. Really, not needed. Probably a waste of £5 added to the overall budget, but I like it and makes the bike a little bit more special than just a loose key. I've only got one key, all that came with the bike. Power's out of the corner. It's so nice to ride, like it's so nice just to get on a little bit of power. I don't know how much fuel I'm using when I'm opening the throttle like this. I do know it's a big old tank, 6.5 gallons. Is that about 30 litres? I'll correct myself in the screen below if I got it wrong. But you're meant to be able to do 300 miles to a tank on this thing. Now this begs the question now, are old bikes better? Maybe they are better. So this bike has gone from, well, it hasn't gone from anything. It's a financial mistake. Let's just say that out loud. It is a financial mistake to buy a crash damaged pan-European. I'll never get the money back that I put into this bike, unless I'm incredibly lucky, and I just don't feel that lucky. I don't feel like this bike will sell for £1,100–1,200. It's just too untidy, and there's loads of them about. I saw a post on the forum that some guy bought one for 400. I mean, mine's got an MOT and some nice bits, but if one's 400 and this one's 1,200, obviously they're going to buy the dirt cheap one. And then you've got the mint ones that these old boys have looked after, and they're sort of like 2,600 free. And I think, who's going to buy that? I guess if you want a mint one and £3 isn't a lot of money to you, which is not really in terms of motorcycles, that's a second-hand Royal Enfield Meteor, and you remember this bike fondly, maybe somebody will buy one of those more expensive position bikes. Look at this. I am lucky I've got modern and new tyres on the bike. It would have really been annoying if I'd had like 15-year-old rubber, because I've got these Bridgestones Battle Axe, whatever they're called, S23 touring tyre. Basically I got the tyre that's exactly right for this bike, came with the bike, so cancel. So it feels to me quite grippy, you know, but then I do ride on also Bridgestone AX41 knobbly tyres normally, so this is obviously buttery smooth and grippy compared to what I normally ride on. Don't really like the smoked windscreen. That's a bit of a, I don't really like smoked windscreens. I like to see in front, and already having a big screen kind of takes away from that. But what are you going to do? I mean, it's part of the design of the bike, you can't really get rid of it. I just wish it was clear, not smoked. Boy, I mean, the mid-range pull on this thing is savage. And of course, it had 100 horsepower 28 years ago. Right, watch this now, straight. Such good overtaking. I mean, the roll-on is dreamy. I'm just riding my pan-European that costs £600. Let's just brush over the fact that I've had to spend the same again on it to get it not looking as shit as it did when I first bought it, but that's the headline. £600 pan-European. All these pockets and things I'm gonna make use when we go on a trip on this bike. Right, I'm going to stop the video there, otherwise it'll be too long and you all won't watch it, you'll all click off and the YouTube algorithm will kill my video. So I'll see you back when we take this bike back home and we'll have a little summary and a roundup. See you in a bit.
What a difference a motorcycle ride makes, eh? Just like any other bike, when you go out for a ride, you come back feeling better, more uplifted than you do when you left. Pan is no exception. So I'm delighted to share my thoughts, my first ride review, it's almost like when we used to do reviews on the channel, of the Honda Pan-European SD1100. So firstly, it is a comfortable bike. I will say though that I thought I was leaning onto the bars a little bit more than I expected. That's a little bit of a pain. I kind of hoped it would be a proper upright touring bike, but it's not. It's a bit of a sports tourer. And if you look at where your legs go, you see that's kind of a sporty riding position. And very cleverly, from the design ethos, this panel here that slides down at a diagonal is in line with your knee or your shin bone. So it's very, very clever the way they've designed the bike. I think I'd just get used to being in that slightly canted forward position. I've got good tyres on there. I've now inflated them to the correct PSI. It feels like they've got a lot of grip, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now, engine, buttery smooth, Honda V4. It almost feels too good to be true, really. On and off the throttle, no jerkiness at all, obviously, because it's carburetor fed. It's not that Euro 5 fuel injection nonsense. This is old school. Now, I do confess that I don't know anything about carbs, but I would probably guess that my carbs aren't lumpy. So shout out to lumpy carbs. My carbs are perfect, seemingly. I don't know how they work, but they're seemingly working perfectly because I've got a lovely idle, I've got smooth power, I've got good throttle response, no hesitation on pickup, no bogging down, no weird noises. So I think we're doing quite well. I think it's a smooth running, bizarrely, for what it looked like when we got it. One thing that is a little bit crap is the response to the front brakes. I think the rear is okay, but the front just feel a little bit nothing, a little bit woody. And I think that's probably because I'm just used to modern bikes where every single braking system is super sharp. Not so good on this. It could be the fluid, it could be the pads need replacing. I don't know exactly, they just don't feel that good. But then again, I don't go tearing around, so I probably don't need top end braking performance. I just ride accordingly. They work, they're safe, they're functional. They don't feel quite as sharp as modern bikes. So we've got a few bits left to do. We'll get the pan sorted and then we'll hopefully plan, if I have time, plan a trip and just put this thing through its paces. Basically, I'm really enjoying this bike. It's super. And I was in a bit of a mood earlier in the video, but honestly, getting it out now, look at this red, the seat, riding the thing. Provided this is just not just a one-off lucky first ride and the bike continues to be reliable, I'm pretty happy with it.